start out, we'll just go in here. This is going to look different because, I've organized my third-party plugins so that I can use them quickly, with mixing beats and stuff. You're definitely going to want to know where everything's at. If you have a lot of plugins, like I have a few hundred. So, but if we're going to start, I would recommend, especially starting out, you start with drums. They're going to lay down the foundation, make sure everything's set up appropriately. This will be what pops up. This panel right here, if you press I on your keyboard, it will bring it up or take it away. This is important. This is the volume. You're panning left and right and stuff, different speaker panning if you want to do that. Actually, if you have these settings on, you can actually click and drag. Oh, yeah. Click and drag, and you can turn them off or on. And it's being kind of weird right now, but click and drag if you want to do it quickly. I think with it on, certain things sound good and certain things don't. So it's really like up to you on what you want as far as your sounds of your different instruments and stuff. And then this panel right here is Y. So if you press Y, this is your library. You can turn that off or take it off if you don't want to use it that way. You can also, go in through here and select that way. So it's really up to your discretion. And then for trap and stuff, you can use Atlanta. Crate Digger and Boom Bap are pretty good for making like hip hop stuff, not necessarily trap stuff. Beat Machine and all these other ones have some good ones too. Like if you want to just create your own kit, you could click the empty kit. And then of course you can download all these if you want. I don't really use much of these, so it doesn't really matter for me. But if you're definitely going to use Logic without third-party stuff, or whatever, you haven't got into all that yet, there is plenty of stuff on Logic available. And then if you're trying to make an empty kit, you can use like individual ones from any of those kits. So it's kind of worth it to download everything so that you have everything available. But I'm just going to show you the basics of how to go about it. So let's start with Atlanta. So with this, I usually turn all this off. When it's on, you have so I'll break it down for you. So this is a, series of plugins. It's like a compressor, another compressor, some filtering. Pedal board is actually guitar effects, but you can use this for anything. If you want to add some fuzz to an instrument or something, you can add, like that pedal board or something. If you want to, and then this is a delay, this is a reverb, and this is an equalizer. And if you have it on, it's going to sound one way, and if you have it off, it's two different things. So you can pick and choose. Like if you like the way that it sounds compressed, or with these two on, or a delay or something, feel free to mess around with what sounds you like and what sounds you don't like. And if you want to get more in detail with it, I would say you can go down to each individual, this is kick 1 right here. And then, your click, that's this channel right here. And so you can turn these on if you wanted to sound differently. So I'll give you an example. With that on and then with it off, it's a little different. So this is the individual instruments, and these are the things that are affecting each individual instrument. And then this is like your send for different instruments have sends and stuff too, which this is being sent to bus 6. So if you have your drum, your drum machine, it's being sent to your stereo channel. But if you go to your kick is being sent to bus 8, which is this, and then it runs through another compressor, an equalizer, and then you actually have more buses if you want to send it further. And if you press X, you're going to bring up your mixer channel, and it's going to have everything on here. And then here's your buses that I'm talking about. So these bus channels are coming from, different instruments. So if you look down here, it's just like a cowbell, and then that is being sent to bus 6. So if you go over to bus 6, there's a compressor and an EQ there, and this stuff isn't as big starting out, but it's important to know these things, because if something sounds weird and you don't know why, how are you going to fix that sound? So you have to know what is affecting whatever instrument you're using, and to be successful, you have to understand how all this works, because to be at a professional level, you're competing with professionals. They're the one, they know exactly what they're doing most of the time. It's not try this and it sounds good all the time. They do that, you can do that occasionally. It's the experimentation of music, but the most important thing is that you're consistently practicing and learning what stuff does, so that you can alter things to be exactly how you want them. It's one thing to hear something in your head and it sound good, and it's another thing to make it sound good in something like Logic or any other DAW. And so it's really important to spend the time to actually learn these things and not just be afraid of them, because they're obviously not going to be something you understand starting out necessarily, but down the road you will start to understand all that, and it makes it a whole lot easier. So basically, I'm just going to start out by making a simple loop. So we're going to go and close this, because you only need to know about that stuff for affecting the sounds. But we're going to go and I'm going to go through simple parameters. So you can either press X to close that section out down here, or you can press E and it'll bring up your piano roll. So when you have your piano roll up, you can go in and you don't even need a keyboard or a drum pad. You can literally just click things in. And notice when I zoom in that it changes the values that are up here. This is your count. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4. And that's going to be the basic time principle that you have. BPM is going to be a huge part on what kind of genre or sound you have, because if you go up to 160, 164, that's going to be that Metro Boomin trap stuff. He does a lot. He's got some songs at 140 as well. So the faster speed and stuff are going to matter for certain things. You can do 80 and it's half time. So 80 would be half of 160, and everything's just going to be cut in half. So if you make it the kick hit on the 1 of every bar, if you hear it like this, it's going to take a little bit longer. But if I double the time up to 160, it's going to take half the time. So it really depends what kind of sound you want. You can look up what BPM different genres are. Funk is 110, and a lot of boom bap and 90s hip hop is 90 to 100 BPM, but there's no rules that really require you to do that. So if you want a song to be real fast, you can turn it up, but you can also just do it down here twice as fast at a slower BPM. So it's really your discretion. Traditionally, things like a kick are on the 1, and then on the 3, you'll have your snare or whatever. So my session is going to be at 130. That's a pretty common thing. A lot of Travis Scott and stuff is like a 130 to 145 or so. Post Malone, a bunch of these new artists have like this 120 to 150 range too. A lot of the trap stuff's going to be, you can do anywhere from 120 to 180, 200 even. It just depends on what the song is. If you're using samples and stuff, it depends on what the sample is and how you're going to use that sample and whatever. But so let's just start with something simple. And so you hear that is a very simple line. I like to put the snares on the 3. You can also, if you want it to be quicker though, you could do something like click and drag that. If you're clicking this, it'll select everything on this row. So if you click that, you highlight everything that's using that key, and you can move it to wherever you want it. And then, if you did that and then command click, you will place these things. So you can like set up however you want it to sound. That's like a very like electronic sound. I am not really going for that sound, but that's something that you can do. Click and drag will select. It's a select tool. You can use that, or you can go click on it directly, or you can click every single one of them, press delete, and it'll delete it. Command Z is undo. Shift Command Z is redo. But we're going to move this back to that point. So we have something like that. I like to put a kick right before your hi-hat, or for your snares too. Another thing that's good, and if you don't want to have to use as much space, it takes a little bit more processing. If you press L, it'll loop it. So you got to make sure that you're on like a, on a 2-bar, like this is 2 full bars right here. So if I press L, bring it up to here, that's 4 full bars. If I want to join these 2 sections together, you press J and it'll join it. If you want to undo that, you press Command Z, it'll undo it. I usually do things in 4-bar segments. A lot of people do 2, 4, 8, or 16, but they're going to do them in increments of 2 or 4. You're not going to have a full 6 bars necessarily. Like you can, but for a lot of artists, they anticipate 4 full bars or 8 full bars or 16 bars. And they kind of get used to that rhythm. So unless you're specifically working with somebody or they know or they're like specifically asking for it, I would stick to 2, 4, 8, 16 bar sections just to be consistent with, a lot of the producers today, because I don't think people realize that, modern ears have modern expectations. So you're going to have, this expectation that things are consistent with the mainstream stuff like Migos and stuff. They're not doing 6-bar phrases. They're doing 8-bar phrases or 4-bar or 16. So it's even segments. And if you start doing 3-bar sections, it's going to throw the whole rhythm of the song off because people are anticipating 4 full bar movements.